the narrative around the planned nationwide protests, those who say the protesting hunger, hardship in the land is on. And of course, conversations here and there are flying, and there are those who are for, and then you have others who are against. And both sides of the divide have their arguments based on several concerns. Some say, well, if the protest goes on, it will destroy so much economically, socially, and otherwise. They say Nigeria is in a fragile state at this point, and the least we can do is to shelve the protests and then continue to build on whatever it is we have achieved so far as a government and as a country. Others say, well, it will appear the government is not listening, or worse still, the government is not paying attention. Therefore, it is only imperative that we go on with this process in such a way that we can drive the message home and get governments to sit up and then do what it ought to, what it was elected, what it was put in place to do in the first instance. But while the entire time, whether or not citizens should protest, conversations were going on, it was also important to look at the legal implications of a protest. First, the issue of whether or not protesters have the right to go on peaceful demonstration is not in doubt at all. It's not a subject of debates, because the laws of the land are very clear in this regard. Others say, well, this is not a matter of, it's not a question of being legalistic. It should be an issue of shared necessity not to go on this protest in such a way that citizens have a demand placed on them to show some sort of patriotism at this point. But you know what the people say, someone who is hungry will naturally become angry. But in the last few days, we've seen governments intervene in quite a number of ways to ensure that this protest either doesn't go on at all, or even if it does, with a big if, the damage that comes with it is minimal. But of course, that's why we're here to look at the legal aspects of it today. I'm joined by Ziggy Usman, who is a legal practitioner, to talk to us about this from a standpoint that is both incisive and informative. It's good to have you, Usman, on the program.
I'm happy to be here.
Great. Let's begin. First of all, you witnessed the NSAS protest. Whether you protested or not, I'm not sure, but I know you followed the entire, that journey, all of the news around it and so on and so forth. For many people, the argument is that all the efforts to mitigate the impact of that protest either didn't pay off at all, or whatever payoff we got from it was extremely minimal. What are the legal implications of a protest of this magnitude?
Well, to start with, the whole idea of protest, like you did mention in your introduction, is something that has to do with the rights of Nigerian citizens. Is their fundamental right. And the reason why people normally invoke their rights on issues is based on as a result of failure from either the government or the people that ought to do the needful. That is why people revert back to those rights to check and to exercise them. It has been there before. This protest is not something that is happening for the first time in this country. Numerous numbers of protests took place before now, and there were no much issue. Like you mentioned, the one that happened last, that is the NSAS. It was the same reason, bad governance. It's not that they were talking about something else. It was the same reason, bad governance. They needed a change, and they want the government to have a rethink, to do the needful, so that the citizen will benefit from their policies that they are called for to do. Because the whole thing started by vote for me, I will work for you. And then you are being given the mandate, and now you become a lion that people should not cannot dare you. Which ordinarily you're not supposed to be like that. In the Western world, you see the leaders move around closely with their citizens without any fear of anything. But Africa, Nigeria to be precise, one person will move around with more than 50 security men who are fully armed. What for? If you are not having hidden agenda, or you have something to hide from your people. Because if you're plain, you don't have any issue. In the time past, we know of governors that work freely with people, and then there was no issue. That was around 99 or thereabout. You see some governors, they work freely, they go and even buy things in the public place with people. And there was no any issue. Why? Because they are closer to their people. And the more you are closer to your people, the more free they are, and the more they will not even give you much headache. Because it's because you distance yourself from the people. That's why the people felt that, okay, now you think that you are a demigod, then nobody can reach you. However, when it comes to election, you come to us, we are the one that give you the mandate and vote for you and make you to be there. Because you cannot on yourself, vote yourself and be a leader. For who? You have to be for people. And that has been the issue. So coming to look at the legality of this whole thing, of course, the protest is legal. The Constitution back it. And then there are numerous of cases also by the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal that make it also as a law. Now this protest, right to protest, is a fundamental right. It's not something that somebody will wake up and say no. Like in the case of Supreme Court, there is a case of AMPP versus the Inspector General of Police. That decision was given in 2008, where the Supreme Court said clearly that the right to protest is a fundamental right, and the police cannot interfere or stop protesters from protesting. That is the law.
I need to ask you this. I spoke with a few lawyers in 2018, and one of them told me that there are aspects of our Constitution that are not justiciable. And it will appear that those elements in the Constitution that are not justiciable are also part of the reasons for these kind of protests. Let's talk about those factors.
Well, there are two provisions of fundamental rights. We have the objective, then we have Chapter 2 and Chapter 4. Chapter 2, they are not justiciable. That is where you see the right to education, right to water, right to electricity, all these basic amenities.
The politicians normally promise during campaign.
Yes. So when they were drafting that constitution, as at then, they transfer all those things to become a right that has to be, it is not justiciable, because it's something that government, when it feel like, it gives you. That is in Chapter 2. And then you go to the Chapter 4, which is the fundamental human rights. That one is a right, as it connotes the word, say fundamental human rights. These are rights guaranteed by the 1999 Constitution as amended to its citizens for them to exercise. And unfortunately, those rights, those sections in that particular chapter, section 38, 39, and 40, they fall under the category of fundamental human right, which is enforceable in law. That's why you see, if you are having issue with police, you can go and file through your lawyer enforcement of fundamental human rights. Those fundamental human rights fall under that Chapter 4. Those ones, they are justiciable, while the Chapter 2, they are not justiciable. And those ones that are in that Chapter 2 include the right of water, like I mentioned, good health care, medical health care. Like in other countries, you see all these things, free medical health care, water, electricity, and others. It's a right, fundamental. But you know, our own, the draftman, as at then, will I say, in a very cunning way, shifted those things, lifted those items, and put them in the other side, which is not justiciable. And then allow those ones in the other side that makes it justiciable, which part of them is one of those rights that the citizens are invoking now to now protest based on those rights they have. Assuming that those sections fall under Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, definitely they don't have rights to do that. But in this case, these rights fall under the fundamental human rights, and they have a right to enforce it and apply it. And just like every other Nigerian has it, nobody is allowed by any way to infringe somebody from exercising that right which has given to him, because it's guaranteed. That one is guaranteed, while the other one is not guaranteed. That's why it's now optional. The government can do it, might not do it, you cannot hold them responsible. Nobody can sue government that government do not provide water for me. No, you can't try that, because if you start, who is that lawyer who will even tell you that let's go to court?
So it's going to be an exercise in futility if you go to court.
There's nothing that, but in those ones, this Chapter 4 that we're talking about, where those rights fall under, that is where you go to court. There are plethora of cases on those things, that has to do with enforcement of fundamental human rights. Just even the case I just mentioned now, AMPP versus Inspector General of Police, is based on that too, to enforce their fundamental human rights. And the court says that yes, if you right to protest is a fundamental right. Police cannot stop you from protesting. That's the language, cannot. So you know that may is a cannot, is a mandatory requirement. So police cannot say that, okay, you should not protest or protest.
Is it realistic in Nigeria beyond what the law says, which is in principle? In reality, is it possible to have the police provide protection for protesters?
Oh yes. In reality, yes. It happened before. It's not that this is the first time. Sometimes ago during the administration before the one that left, that's Goodluck administration, they did that. In fact, the president himself now was one of the leaders of those protests as at then. He was the one superheading those protests in Lagos, while others they are here. El-Rufai and Co are here in Abuja doing their own. And what did the government do? The government provided them all the enabling environment they want, the security they needed, and they were there. And they did that peacefully. It happened. So the issue now is that the government are not trying to come out and engage the people properly so that they can start the conversation in order to say, okay, Combo, we are part of you too. We are all Nigerians. We are part of this suffering, as you mentioned. Now, how do you go about it? We want to give you protection. Where do you want to start? How do you want to go about it? This discussion should have started way back weeks ago, because this notice of this protest did not start yesterday or last week. It has been trending sometimes last month. That's when they started. And it has been going. And they talk is a joke. This thing is something that these youth are bent on doing. And when they want to do it, if you do not give them the enabling environment, it will lead to chaos. Exactly like what happened in NSAS in Lagos. Because when the soldiers and the security men started shooting them, that's when they now revolted and they went on rampage. And they destroyed a lot of government properties as a result of that. But when they started earlier, they were there at that toll gate, peacefully doing what they are doing. Peacefully. Until when the force came, that they should destabilize them. And that's where the thing happened. So if you are there to protect me or people that are protesting, I'm not part of them. And I'm not saying that they should not do because it's their right. I can't stop them. But I'm saying that the government should be the one to come first and approach them. Come, we hear what you are doing. We want to help you by doing what we're supposed to play in our role so that we can meet in a particular point. What this thing would end to is dialogue. Who is going to break the table, set the table? It's not the protesters. It's the government that will set the table for the dialogue. When they set the table for the dialogue, the protesters will come and sit down and discuss with them. But first, you have to put something on the table for them to see that this is it. Once they do that, then they can calm down. And then they will now continue discussion, because there's no way protest, violence can give you exactly what you want to some extent. It cannot give you exactly what you want, but it can give you part of what you want, but not exactly full what you want. You might have it and do not have it. It's a give and take kind of thing. But if the government are proactive and the government are in adherence to the rule of law, because the rule of law, observation and to adhere to this rule of law is very vital to any government. Any government that take any rule of law to suit themselves, to interpret it so that to their own benefit, purposely, they might not get what they want because it is open. And then you have to make it, everybody should come and participate. Then hear them. You are not leader to animals. It's human beings. They voted you. So why is it that you don't want to listen to them? Listen to them. What is your problem? Come, we'll do it this way, we'll do this way. We'll start this way and end here. Let's see, set the role in rolling. If you want to set the ball rolling and they see yes of a truth, because most of the times, a lot of Nigerians have been receiving fake promises from politicians. We are going to do this, X, Y, Z. And at the end of the day, immediately they enter story change. The first thing they do is to take care of themselves and to recoup their investment. After which, they will now come back and say, okay, before you know it, 4 years have gone, you will come back, let's do another.
As it stands right now, we have seen many groups, whether in the north or in the south, pulling out of the protest, saying we are no longer interested, saying we need to give the government under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu so let's cut him some slack, let's allow him some more time, all right, to prove himself, to do more work and change the country, bring transformation, reforms and all of that. Isn't that a step in the right direction? Isn't that a way of saying that this protest is not even needed in the first instance?
Well, it might not be like that if the government started this thing like 2 weeks before now. Probably it would have been subpedaled, there are a lot of tension, and then make people see some reasons on why this protest should not go. But the language, body language of the government is being so strict that they are trying to frustrate the effort of these protesters. One, why? Because they've not come out, like I said, to interface with them in order for them to have a soft landing on what they want to do. Now, if you are not in charge of something, how can you control it? You can't control it. The law says you have a right to go and protest, peaceful protest. Now, the person that the same law gave him right, power to give you that protection is not ready to give you that protection. So where do you start from there? Is it when you go, then they will not come and tell, okay, now we are ready for you? And then it will be that this thing, that means, like I said, there's no, by what I saw and what the government are doing, as far as I'm concerned, this protest will definitely hold. Because I've not seen serious and concrete measures by the government to curtail this thing in any way. All they are doing is to go and get some group here and give them some peanuts and say, come and protest that, we are not in support of that. But they are not even the main actors of doing this thing. They are not the main actors. During 2023 election, you know how Nigerian youth mobilize themselves for the sake of election. A lot of youth. Why? Because they felt that they understood that they need to put and make an input in this election. Not as usual that they always tell them that we are coming and then they will not see them again. Now they mobilize themselves. That alone is a signal for Nigerian politicians to know that the youth they are no longer sleeping again.
All right, I think we need to take a quick break because I have just one more question to ask you after this break. The rest of the program returns, everyone. Do stay with us. As of today, we know for a fact that one of your colleagues, Adegboruwa SN, has written to the Inspector General of Police requesting cover protection for the protesters. We understand that request has already been honored, and the IG is already providing leadership in that direction. And then one of Nigeria's frontline human rights activists, Deyanju, himself a lawyer as well, has also written to the Chief of Army Staff to say, look, there's no need for you to deploy soldiers as far as these protests is concerned.
Of course.
To what extent do those requests influence the outcome, or whatever the outcome will be regarding this protest?
Well, those requests are requests that initially supposed to be in place before now.
Okay.
Because the law also make provision for those requests should be made available earlier. And like I said, the language of the security agents and the government is not they are not entertaining such things. They are not ready to entertain such things. They're trying to dodge away from their responsibility. That is why those applications are more or less delayed to this point. But this is something that they ought to have done that earlier on if the government are being receptive to what they are requesting for. Of course, what the IG did is in order, but for me, it's coming late, because these are things that they're supposed to do way back before now, so that the committee or the team that will do this thing, they would have been sure of the venue and then know the kind of people that they expect. And then, of course, why would you even go and say you want to bring soldiers to come and do what? Is it a war thing? Is that the duty of a soldier? Soldier is not supposed to be seeing where civilians are. This is practically the duty of police. And even with the decisions of the Supreme Court, they did not mention soldier, because they know the rule of soldier is not to the civilians. No, they are supposed to be outside the borders and there and protect those borders and any issue that has to do with foreign and not local. Now, the police are the ones saddled with the responsibility to protect lives and properties. That's their main core assignment. in this country, not soldiers. Soldiers did not call. There's no way in their act that say that soldiers should protect the lives and property of Nigeria. No, safeguard the territorial integrity of Nigeria,
right.
Not the lives and property. Now, the police that are saddled with that responsibility to protect the lives and property of Nigeria, they are the ones that are supposed to come out when they see those things coming up in the social media. They were supposed to be the one to come out and say, "Come on, let's have a talk, let's dialogue. How do you want to go about this thing? Okay, where is your venue? Is the venue secure? Yes, the venue has been secured. This is the place we're going to do. We're expecting 1 million people to come for that protest. We are supposed to be here. Are you going to march through the street or to station yourself in one place?" All those discussions will be discussed. And they will know, okay, they are following, assuming in Abuja here, they are starting from Eagle Square, maybe to march to Eagle Square to National Assembly, and then to follow the whole of that street to the police headquarters and maybe turn through Area 11 and come back. They will tell you, no, that place might not be safe for you. Why can't you follow through Wuse and follow here and go there, or follow through Metama and stay there? They will now rub minds and now be in a position of, okay, this is what we agree upon. But as it stands now, I don't think there's going to be a magic from now to tomorrow that they will agree on those things before that D-Day, which is next tomorrow on Thursday, because I don't see any magic that they can do. But if they have done that before now, it will be clear, even the government and the citizen will be at peace that, Okomo, this thing, government has in support for this thing to take place and giving us all the necessary thing we need. And that will even give them that will even strike a chord in their heart that, come on, if this government they are doing this to us, that means they do not wish us bad. They would begin to have a rethink on how to dialogue with them properly. But they have to see something on the table.
Right. I think we just can, we can only hope that things turn out in the overall interest of Nigerians, and that the purpose for the protest in the first instance is also accomplished without violence. But then some lawyers I talk to also say that there's a lesson in rule of law that the government should be learning. If we had been able to strengthen our legal framework around several of the critical issues in this country, pay attention to the rule of law and stuff like that, we won't be discussing protest or no protest at this point in time. But we'd like to say a big thank you to Barrister Ziggy Usman for coming to talk to us on Scale of Justice today. And that's what we're leaving it, everyone. Thank you so very much for being a part of the program. Remember that the views of our guests are their opinions. This is Global Television. Our broadcast here continues. I'm Uyi Mofwebe.